Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I have something new for you today, which is something I've been talking about with people on the website Gearspace, and it is a dither. Let's go look at it. As you can see, what I have here is my original TPDF dither, but we've got a new one, and I'm going to tell you how it works. And the reason I've got this reverb going on is that it is stereo, whereas my voice is mono. This reverb, this dither is TPDFWide. And let's just do a little A/B. This is at CD 16-bit, so it might not come across on the YouTube because of the compression and all. But if you do hear anything, this is the only difference. If everything is converted to 16-bit, with regular TPDF dither, it sounds like this. However, if everything is converted to 16-bit with the wide TPDF thing, it sounds like this. Do you hear any difference between these two things? Do you hear any difference between these two things? The idea is that it should be making the spatial qualities of it a little bit wider without ever actually ceasing to be TPDF dither. Now let me tell you how that's done. What TPDF dither is two noise sources of exactly one least significant bit in size. Regular noise, or the background noise if you're recording, or the background noise if you're a studio, is not going to do it. It's a very specific volume, and to do TPDF it needs to be two of those because that's called triangular probability density function. What these do is they kind of statistically decorrelate the sound of quantization distortion from the signal coming in. It basically breaks it up and stops it happening. What's going on with regular TPDF dither, excuse me while I move my microphone around a little bit, is you're getting these noise sounds in the background. So what we're hearing now is this deres control is breaking stuff down into extremely low bit noise. And what we're hearing is basically like 2-bit or something. And you're still hearing the reverb tails behind all this loud noise. Because you can still hear deep into the noise floor of a properly dithered sound. That's what we're doing right now. TPDF dither applies a quantization function, and that's how the deres thing works. So when we make the noise this loud, we are reducing the bit rate of the audio to a very, very low rate. But since it's TPDF dither, we're not getting the same bit crush effects you get on a regular bit crush processor because it's correctly removing the quantization distortion. And so it sounds a little bit like if I didn't have it there at all. But what you're hearing right now is 24-bit, and what you're hearing when I turn it on is going to be more like about, 4 bits. And yet, even though there's that noise, you can still kind of make stuff out down there. The difference between the regular TPDF dither, which this is mine, so my algorithms sometimes have extra tricks in them. If I'm not mistaking how it works, the TPDF dither that I came up with has a slight bias in like half a least significant bit or something in one direction, so that shows as a little extra correlation, but it also pushes the noise floor off until your background noise with the hang on, we'll turn it on again. When we have the noise floor going on and the background drops away to silence and nothing but dither sound, it covers slightly more of a range of bits than it would if it was strictly just least significant bit noise sources lining up perfectly. There's just a little bit of an offset, so it can cover a little bit more of a range. And I think that makes things fall behind the level of the sound better. Whereas when we go to TPDFWide, which is the new one, we have also got noise. But the noise doesn't sound exactly the same. Let me type in. So this is the TPDF dither. This is completely accurate and correct TPDF noise sources being applied. But what TPDFWide does is it's looking for a trick that people are saying that a waves dither does. I think I may have implemented it better. I certainly did not use the technique waves used, but the idea is you don't want your random values in either side to be the same. If you have literally the same value in both channels, it is said to make the dither less wide. So what we're doing here is we have a noise source like this. This one's purely random. And this one, if the random values are too close to each other, it'll just re-roll them. It'll first re-roll one of the sides, it'll re-roll, for instance, right, and see if it gets a random value that is different. If that's not good enough, it'll re-roll the left, and it'll see if that gets a random value that's different. And if that's not enough, it'll re-roll the right again, at which point it'll give up if it still can't do it. But the idea is this is producing a still random value, because each time it is still random, but it's refusing to do some of the ones where both of the channels would be the same. It's refusing to do the ones where the channels would be mono. And that basically makes it not exactly random anymore, but it's still being generated by random sources. Like, there is nothing to say if you have a random source and then you throw away the next 100 rolls of the random source and then roll another one, that it stops being random anymore. The fact that we're choosing random sources does affect things a little bit, but it should still work as a random dither that doesn't sound like it's introducing any artifacts, and it doesn't stop it doing the dither thing that we want it to do. So again, here is our regular TPDF dither, and it is capable of making random sources where both sides end up being the same, just by chance. And we're listening for what the reverb tail sounds like, because the reverb is the only part that's actually becoming stereo. And then, if we turn on TPDFWide, we have a random sound, but even at this very low bit resolution, there's a little bit more space, there's a little bit more stereo ambience going on, because the randomization is not being allowed to be in mono. And we're going to go back to the one again. We're going to go back to the regular TPDF dither, and I need to make dinner pretty soon, but dither. And you can hear that this is, in fact, a little bit more centered sounding. It's feeling like it's a little more restricted. And then this one feels like it's a little bit more stereo, but it's still TPDF. It's still random source dither. Let's take it down to the 16-bit level again. There you have it. So this is something that came out of a discussion where people were talking about this dither that checked to see if the numbers were literally and exactly the same, and if they were the same, apparently it made the dither be 0 on one side, or I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. But I heard people talking about that, and I thought, hey, I ought to be able to do something like that, which is free and open source, that people can have and use in things if they can work with the MIT license, and that delivers some of this behavior. And so there you have it. This is TPDFWide, and I will just open up Galactic, and I'll make a nice little drone that we can enjoy for the final explanation of what's going on here. The reason I'm able to do these things is because I'm supported by Patreon. Patreon, pays my mortgage, it keeps me housed and fed, and it is also how I get interesting gear that I can make audio models of. For instance, Patreon helped pay for me buying a Mackie mixer, which I made Mackie and Mackie Q out of, and which also contributed to doing the Z-series filters, which are based on an EMU E6400 sampler, which uses Z-plane filters, and people wanted those. And so I made the Z-plane filters. Oh, and I'm going to return to the Z-plane filters because I'm just finishing up my Y-series, which is the smoothed, and also the Y-series have some strange additional behaviors in them, but that's, me writing plugins, that's typically going to happen. And I really appreciate it when people do that. I'm going to try to expand the stuff that I do on the channel and so on outwards, but for the time being, I hope you like TPDFWide. Here, It is the latest in free Airwindows, AU, VST, Mac, Windows, Linux, signed Mac, and all that kind of stuff. And I will continue to provide plugins to the best of my ability. Doing the best I can with this stuff. I hope you like it, and I hope TPDFWide is of some use. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you later.